Thanks for sticking with us here on Brightside. Well, we continue to track Tropical Storm Ian. Both meteorologists here with us this morning. And it has shifted a little bit, but still remain in the cone of uncertainty this morning.
Yeah, the track has shifted to the west, but it hasn't started strengthening yet. So it's an odd place to be right now. We're seeing things where it looks a little more favorable for Tampa Bay. However, things are going to begin to change really quickly today. We'll start to see it rapidly intensify, and I think that's where people are going to begin to realize the threat level that is going to come with Ian.
It's real, and it's about to happen.
Yep. So guys, now's the time to just keep checking back with the latest forecast here with 10 Tampa Bay. And look, we're going to keep you prepared. We're going to keep you informed with what's changing because there has been a lot of change. But look, we're going to keep you connected to what's going on and make sure that you know how to prepare and protect you and your family. Here's the latest here. So it's still a tropical storm. It's moving through the Caribbean right now. It's going to begin to rapidly intensify later today as it then turns to the north and west, and then ultimately to the north and moving into the Gulf of Mexico, likely becoming a Category 4 hurricane. That could bring catastrophic damage somewhere across the Florida coast. So that's why we have to take this thing really seriously. Like I mentioned, changes begin to happen pretty quickly as we go throughout the day today. It's beginning to organize. You can see it taking on somewhat of that comma shape. It's starting to get some of that outer band structure. The center is starting to organize as well. We're seeing wind speeds still around 50 miles per hour as it moves to the west-northwest, right around 12 miles per hour. So those wind speeds will begin to increase as it starts to move more to the north and west. And then ultimately we're going to see probably a hurricane. If not tonight, definitely into early tomorrow morning. Cayman Islands have some hurricane warnings in effect, hurricane watch in effect for the western tip of Cuba. Meanwhile, no watches or warnings in effect for the United States or Florida quite yet. Here is that latest cone. Let me walk you through this day by day, likely becoming a hurricane sometime later today. Here's what you want to see, right? We're going to see it become a Category 4 hurricane as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's wind speeds up around 140 miles per hour. That is a monster of a storm. The track, though, yes, it has shifted to the west or to the left, but the fact that we're on the east side or the dirty side, right? That's where we have the concern for those onshore winds, the tornado threat, heavy rainfall, and just straight hurricane force winds potentially arriving anywhere from really Fort Myers all the way up into the Florida Panhandle as we head through the second half of next week. So we're going to see a lot change, and we're going to see a pretty intense storm moving into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico as we head through the middle of the week. That rapid intensification is going to happen because it not only moves away from some conditions that are less favorable, but also it moves over some very, very warm water over the northwestern Caribbean. The forecast tracks take it right over that, or at least slightly to the east of the bulk of that. However, the consensus is that we're going to see a rapidly intensifying storm as it moves into the southeastern Caribbean. The water's a little bit cooler here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and that's where we have a lot of uncertainty in that forecast for where it tracks, and that's ultimately going to be a big determining factor on who gets what. Still a lot of uncertainty, but tropical storm force winds could begin to arrive as early as Wednesday morning in the southern part of the area, and then the farther north you are, it will be a little bit delayed. I'm kind of saying have your hurricane preps wrapped up by Tuesday sundown. I think that's the time frame that we all need to be thinking to have everything begin to wrap up, and we're ready to go if we need to be. But it's starting to look a little more likely that we need to expect at least some impacts here in the Bay Area. Here are those threats. I've broken it down from wind, rain and flooding, tornado, and storm surge, all right? So this begins to ramp up as we go through Tuesday into Wednesday. So Tuesday night into Wednesday, we'll begin to see the wind increase with some of those tropical storm force winds. The rain, maybe some light showers going through Tuesday night. That tornado threat comes along with the winds. Those outer bands, we could see some tornado threat all across the Florida Peninsula. That's going to really begin to ramp up through Wednesday into Wednesday afternoon. And then the storm surge. The storm surge gets worse as the center of the storm begins to approach the coast. So we could see significant storm surge threats as we go into Wednesday evening, Thursday morning. All of this, though, highly dependent upon where the center of the storm tracks, okay? So still a lot of uncertainty, but that greatest threat time is really going to be Wednesday afternoon through Thursday. I think we really have to keep a close eye on the track and where those impacts are going to be greatest. It's just too early to say at this point. The three main takeaways as we stand here Sunday morning is going to be that Ian's going to begin to rapidly intensify as we go through the day today. We're going to see a major hurricane moving into the Gulf of Mexico and approaching Florida as we go through the middle of next week. Significant impacts to Florida should be expected, but the exact area of that is still unclear. So that's the big picture with what's going on with the hurricane right now, or at least the tropical storm currently. Head over here. Meteorologist Rich Fields hanging out in the Weather Center. We got a couple of days. Fortunately, the weather ahead of this storm is going to cooperate to help us prepare as much as we can.
But about 72 hours before things really start to deteriorate for us. So now's the time.
And it happens fast.
Very fast.
It really does. That's why we need to prepare when we can and how we can.